Just letting people filter on in. Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us to prepare for Lobby Day next week. We're so excited. And again, thank you so much for being here with us on this Friday morning. We have a lot of information to get through, but first, some introductions. I'm our Communications and Advocacy Administrator, Jackie Muick. With us, we also have Kristen McGee, our Grassroots and Policy Advocate, and Lisa May, our Director of Advocacy. As we go through this presentation, please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box down below, and we'll get to them either at the end or during the presentation. We will be recording this if you didn't hear that recording in progress notification just now. So don't worry about taking notes. Just sit, go through the presentation with us, ask your questions, and we'll be all good. You can always come back to this recording. It will be sent out later today. Just a quick preview of what we'll be doing today. So we're going to talk about what to wear and bring, parking and shuttle info, registration, schedule of events, your visit teams and your team schedules, your do's and don'ts, what's in the bag, what to expect, talking points review, making an impact, and of course a Q&A at the very end. Again, a lot of information to get through. Don't get overwhelmed. You'll be all right. We'll get through it together. So, what to wear? You will be walking on cobblestones in downtown Annapolis, so avoid heels, even if they're cute. Um, Please try to wear comfortable shoes that you'll be okay walking through. We have very busy meeting schedules for most of our teams this year, so expect to be moving and grooving from the time that meetings start at 11 a.m. for some of you and going till 1:15 for some of you. So it's a full day. And please dress for the weather. We are aware that the weather is weathering, and it's looking like it'll be a nice cold Maryland day on Wednesday with some possible winter weather. We are continuing to monitor, and we will be communicating with y'all as we get closer to the event about what to expect and what's going to happen. In the event that we have to cancel the event, one, I will be very sad. Two, we will email you. We will let you know in advance. You're not going to show up to Annapolis and find no one there, I promise. We will be emailing out. So if you got the email from this webinar, you'd get a similar email saying, sorry, don't come to Annapolis. And we will be posting it on our socials. So if you're worried you just missed the email, you can also check our socials. And if you're not seeing anything, then we're good to go. If we don't cancel the event, but where you are, it is snowed in, you got 3 feet of snow and you can't get out, that's okay. Don't put yourself in an unsafe situation. Don't risk frozen roads. Um, just let us know. Just send me a quick email, being like, "Hey, I'm so sorry, I can't make it." Send. That's all I need. Just your name and that you can't make it, so that we know if we say like half of the state can't make it, then we know to communicate with our legislators that the meetings won't be able to happen, unfortunately. So please don't do anything dangerous. We admire your commitment, but please stay safe. That's more important. So bottom line for all of that, communication. We'll talk to you. You talk to us about how weather might change your plans individually should the weather continue to be what it's looking like. And also, please travel light. Bring as little with you as you can, because you will be going through security both at this House building and at the Senate buildings. And everything you bring with you morning of, you will need to carry with you for the whole day. So minimize what you have to carry, and it'll make going from appointment to appointment a lot easier for you. And your arms won't be as tired by the end of the day either. Security. You do need to bring a photo ID. I'm assuming most of you might be bringing that already because you might be driving down. You do need your license. But if you are taking a bus or anything else, please make sure you have your ID with you. They will check it at security at both buildings. You will also, any bags you bring will need to be screened, so just allot that time. It will unfortunately slow down security just a little bit. If you need to bring a bag, but just be aware of that in advance. Parking and shuttle info. How are you getting here? Where are you going? It's important stuff. So just like last year, you'll be parking at Navy Stadium. You'll be going to Gate 5, which please use this specific address. If you type in Gate 5, I believe you are taken somewhere else. So 555 Taylor Ave, Annapolis, Maryland. That's where you want to go. It'll take you right there. There will be a nice person hopefully, working the parking lot that day for us. And if you go up and you tell them that you're here with Maryland Realtors, they should just let you straight on in. No problem. You won't need to pay. Um, if there is a problem with that, like say like the person's like, I don't understand what's going on, whatever else, just send us a quick email or a phone call. Let us know because we will fix it. We don't want y'all coming in and having to pay, I think it's like $10 to go in and park there. So let us know and we'll fix it. And the shuttle that we have a hired shuttle this year. It will be running from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So you'll have time, plenty of time before and after the event to make your way onto the shuttle to get back to parking. Um, there is going to be a printed out Maryland Realtors logo in the window of that bus. So you'll know it's the right bus that you're getting on. And the drop off and the pickup, those two stops, both Navy Parking Gate 5, that's in the bright pink, and Lawyers Mall, also in the bright pink on your screen there. Those are the two stops both ways. So remember where you got on, where you got off, and you'll be golden going back. Um, but it's direct. There's no other stops. So when you get on at Navy Stadium, you get off at Lawyers Mall. And as you can see, the light pink mark on the map there, it's a short walk from the bus stop to the Calvert House. But you will be getting back on right outside of the Senate and House buildings. So it'll be really convenient. But yeah, so that's the parking and shuttle information. We will continue on. So, registration. Once you get to the building, so this is the Calvert House for anyone who has not yet been able to visit. The doorway that you'll enter is that lower door. It's underneath those steps. It's just a little bit hidden. But once you get in there, you will move inside and you'll move forward through those doors, keep going straight, and you'll see tables set up from us to have you check in. You'll give your name and your local board or association, and we'll give you a little sticker that says the association you're with on it, so you can help find your team members for that day, and so your team leads can be able to find you a little bit easier. So once you get your sticker, you're going to keep moving forward, and you'll collect your materials and you'll get your breakfast. And also, we'll have the last of our NAR scarves available for anyone who would like one. So if you really want that nice blue scarf with pockets, sounds like it might be a good day for a scarf on Wednesday. Make sure to get there early. We do not have many remaining, so we'll go through what we can. All right, schedule for the event overall. So 9:30 is when registration opens. There'll be coffee, there'll be breakfast. 10 o'clock is when we'll start that program and breakfast. 10:15 is when we'll have our morning briefing, which we'll touch on a little bit more in a moment. And then 11 to 1 is the general window for your legislator visits. So your meetings we'll talk a little bit more about, but just so you know the overall day, you'll be ending around 1 p.m. And then you'll make your way back to Navy Stadium or wherever you have parked your car. The morning briefing. So please note that there are rounds, there are tables for you to eat your breakfast throughout the atrium and this room pictured, the ballroom. When you're done eating, we will have this year 3 rows of chairs just right by that stage so that when you're done eating, you can move there to make space for anyone else who like needs a little bit more space to eat their food and use the table after you. This morning briefing is a short reminder of the key points we'll be going over in this PowerPoint and a reminder of how the meetings with legislators are going to go, just so in the morning of, you get that quick refresh, you know what you're doing, and then you're off to your visits. All right. If you're a team lead, you've already been notified. So if you have not been notified, don't worry. You're not a team lead. You'll be all good. Teams will be identified at the registration table by color. So those stickers that I mentioned that also say what association you're with are also conveniently color coded. So if you are the yellow team, you will have your team name in yellow, and so forth. Your tentative schedule, what color you're assigned to, and the name of your team lead will be emailed to you later today or Monday at the latest. So you will have that information in advance. Some of that information may change your tentative schedule. Again, tentative, important word there. If legislators are emailing us Monday and Tuesday, it may change before Wednesday, but we will keep you in the loop and you will get the up-to-date information Wednesday morning. But that way you can plan and see who you're probably going to be visiting. Team leads, when they come through those registration tables, will also pick up one bag. Just one, light to carry around, easy to bring around, and they include all the materials you'll be handing off to your legislators and to your drop-off visits, which are specifically legislators who are not able to meet with you, but we still want to stop by and drop off those materials so that they can have all of the key information that we need them to have as well. Most teams will be beginning in the Senate building and then moving into the House building. Not all of them are. I believe we have one team starting in the House and moving to the Senate. And we have some that are just in the Senate and some that are just in the House. So check your schedule when you get it. And also, each team lead will get a folder in their bag that coordinates to the color of your team. So if you're yellow, your team lead has a nice yellow folder that they can hold up to help find the team. So just be aware of that. If you're getting lost and your team lead is looking for you, they're probably going to be holding up that folder so that you can see them easily down the hallway in a large crowd of people. So, for those of you who have not been to the Senate and House buildings, these are what the entrances look like, just so you have a rough idea of what you're looking for. There are two different names for rooms because they wanted to keep it not quite as simple as they could. So, when you enter into the Senate building through these doors pictured, if you have a James, if it's like 102 James, you're going to turn left. But if it says Miller, you're going to turn right. So it's two buildings squished together, but they kept the names just for the fun of it. In the house building, if you're going to a Taylor room, you will be going straight ahead into the elevators. If you're going to low, you're going to stay low. You're not going to the elevators, you're turning right. All right, great. Your team leads should be able to help guide you through this, but should you somehow get separated from your group or your group needs to split up to make sure you can make all of your meetings on time, this is just good information to have so you can navigate around a little bit easier. All right, so that bag I mentioned, what's in it? Quite a few things. So we will have a legislator info sheet. This is for internal use only. Please do not hand this to your legislators. It will have a nice big picture of their face on it, and we'll show you an example of that in a moment and talk a little bit more about it. But it gives you the highlights that you need to talk about with that legislator. You will also have your team schedule. You'll probably have a couple copies of it just in case you need a couple. But generally, just the team schedule, who you're going to at what time, where their office is, and what their phone number is in case you need it. The main thing in each of these bags are their giveaways to all of your legislators. You'll have a cookie, you'll have talking points that do not have their face on them that you can share with them. You will have a lobby day folder as pictured here, the beautiful one from last year. You'll have our State of Maryland housing infographic, and you will have a thank you note. This thank you note, as a sidebar, um, you're just going to fill it out with the people that you were able to meet on Wednesday. And then you'll give it to your team lead, and your team lead will coordinate getting it to local staff. Your local board or association staff will then be able to send it out through snail mail to the legislators, thanking them for their time after the event has ended. And as I said before, so we'll have a few things in this bag. Here is what our folder will look like this year. We have things on housing supply, consumer protection, industry practices, and state budget. We will talk more about these things shortly, I promise. Lisa's just eager to get to you. And the cookies for this year look amazing. We're very excited about that. And we'll have this cookie tag on them as well for you to highlight with your legislators about our new ADU video that I believe actually went live yesterday, but the QR code does not yet work. Apologies. It will be up and running by Wednesday for sure, probably by Monday if you really want to watch it in advance. It's a really great video this year. We're very happy with it. So make sure to highlight that tag on the back of those cookies. And tell your legislators that if they want to learn more about ADUs and statewide ADU adoption, they can scan that QR code and watch the video that we've put out with more information. All right, and with that, Chris is going to talk to you a bit more about what else is in that bag.
Thank you very much, Jackie, and I'm very pleased to have all of you on this call with us. And like she said, I want to reiterate it. This meeting is being recorded, so if your friends who did not get the link, mention that they have missed it, no worries, they will get it. So I just want to reemphasize that point. So those of you who attended last year, this will be familiar. So we will have this info sheet. This info sheet will help guide you through your meeting. So nice little refresher as to what points to hit upon whenever you go into each of the members' offices, because it's not one size fits all. You're going to have different points that, Lisa is working round the clock to target for you so that when you walk into their meetings, you just put your best foot forward. We're here, we're supporting you in that regard. Now, as Jackie alluded to, we will have packets of these legislator info sheets. And so when you go through your packet and you see people that are included that you don't have a meeting scheduled for, that's okay. Because some of the larger associations are split up into mini teams. And so we've prepared you all with materials should you bump into that person, or should you have time to stop by their office and drop off a cookie, say hello, maybe meet with a member, maybe just meet with staff. But otherwise, you have some materials for that purpose. I just want to re-emphasize constantly, while it's great to meet up with other officials that you don't have a meeting for, and we love that, make sure that this does not interfere with the scheduled appointments that we already have lined up for you. It's just very bad form whenever appointments are missed. Things happen, you're running late. Communication is everything. Reach out, let them know. But I just want to reemphasize that point. Don't let the stop by visits interfere with any of the scheduled visits that you may have. Um, and these, their schedules are pretty much prioritized. We started with our the legislators that are within our key committees that are hearing many of the bills that we're discussing. And we've made every effort possible to match each team with, elected officials that are within their association's jurisdiction. And the key point to be mindful of is that even if you are not that particular person's constituent, your voice has a lot of value because you are conducting business, engaging with customers in that area. So, bring those points up and make them aware of that because you're speaking on behalf of your association as well and for us. You can next slide, Jackie. Okay, pretty much touched upon some of this already, but generally meetings are going to last about 15 minutes, give and take. And like I mentioned on the fact sheets, you'll know exactly what points to point out with each of the individual legislators. I can't stress enough, kind of take a glance at these before you go into the meeting and be familiar. You don't have to be an expert, just be very familiar and be very flexible. Sometimes legislators, they arrange for an appointment with you. We think that you're going to meet with them. However, they get called to other things, and it's no disrespect to you at all. They're very happy that you're there. Meetings with staff is not a bad thing. They may pass you off to staff. Staff may sit in. All of those opportunities are good opportunities for engagement. And so I just want to reiterate that point as well. Don't be disappointed if it's staff or if your legislator does not have time to meet with you as planned. Go to the next slide, Jackie. So in determining, okay, who's going to say what, make a plan. Like I said, we're going to have, like Jackie said, I'm sorry, we will get you your schedules and the people who are going to be in your teams with you tentatively by Monday. So you'll have opportunities to kind of coordinate who's going to say what. While one person could go through every single talking point and it's really what works best for your team. If you have an area of expertise and you want to talk on a certain point, don't feel that your team has to just have one spokesperson per visit. These roles can shift. But the biggest thing is to make a plan, who's going to say what. And also, we need a note taker. Whenever there's questions that are asked that we don't have the answer to, or your team doesn't have the answer to, I don't know, I will check and we will follow up is a perfectly acceptable answer, because the worst thing that you can do is share misinformation. And it just shows that you are very thoughtful and, concerned about making sure they get the right information. What to do when that happens? Communicate with us and we will follow up on your behalf. Just if the note taker can just serve that critical role of jotting down any of those unanswered questions, or even if you want to let us know some, mental impressions, what were the vibes? How did you think it went? feel free to let us know. We're always happy to hear from you. I mentioned earlier, arrive on time and be polite. If you're running late, call their office. We are providing the phone extensions for each of the offices and with the schedules too, so that you'll be able to reach out and let them know, hey, we're running a couple minutes behind. Or if you need to, your team can always split up even further and regroup. Just please, please, please do your best not to miss any of these appointments. And kind of a don't, kind of going through the do's and don'ts of this, is leave the group without a plan. If you have to split up, make sure you get each other's information. Hey, we will meet you here. That way, no one gets lost. Go to the next slide, Jackie. Some more do's and don'ts for during your meeting. First of all, just be open to other views. That everyone's not always just going to agree with us, although we wish they really would. I mean, that would be nice. However, the key thing is to stay open, smile, be positive and uplifting whenever you're talking to them, even if they're not exactly saying what we would like them to say back to you or respond in a way that, aligns with our priorities. Just be open to that and jot notes down and let us know, and then we will, figure out how to communicate with them. And nothing wrong with admitting what you don't know, as we mentioned before. Also, be sensitive to the amount of time that you are given to meet with each official. Their schedules are, I said earlier, extremely busy, hectic, and unpredictable. Things can pop up at a moment. So whenever you want to get in, get your points out, and come across, and just be very mindful of their time, because sometimes they will have appointment right after yours or one right before. Be patient and wait if necessary. Also, those of you who have attended before, it's okay. You might have to encounter some cramped spaces at times. Some of these offices are very small. You might end up having to, do a walk and talk in the hallway. That is perfectly acceptable and it happens. Just do your best and just go with the flow with that. Make sure whenever you are there, as Jackie alluded to, hand all the materials off that are the leave behind materials, and the infographic, the pretty folders, and the accessory dwelling unit cookie. And encourage the member that you're meeting with or staff, hey, check out the QR code, brand new video. We really would love for you to check it out on ADUs. Just, mention that again whenever you're handing it to them. As far as the don'ts, I think we all know this. It's very important not to bring up any unrelated issues during these meetings, due to time, as well as just being cognizant of what the priorities are and the purposes of this is. Also, you never want to make promises that you can't deliver. And don't be overly wordy whenever you're trying to state your case and go over the talking points, because, like I said before, a lot of times they are time constricted and things just kind of need to keep moving along. And I mentioned to this earlier, don't ever discount a meeting with staff. As a former staffer myself, I can tell you that sometimes it's a good thing, a really good thing to meet with staff, because those people, they have more time to sit there and dissect all the materials that you're going over. So there's pros and cons. But I can tell you they work long hours and they delve into thorough research on different priorities and different issues as they come up. But most importantly, they are the gatekeeper to each of the elected officials. If something goes wrong, if someone is, the good, the bad, and the ugly, that elected official will hear about it. So just, be very polite and cognizant of that with staff as well. And then after your meeting, I had already mentioned this before, about encouraging them to visit the QR code for the ADU video and thank them. Thank them for their time. Thank the staff for their time if they met with you. If you had a staff member attend the meeting with you, or if you met with staff, get their business cards. Get a picture with the staff. Get a picture with the elected official and your team if time allows, and if they, if they're willing to, because this is a great opportunity to do a follow-up whenever you're sending your thank you notes or thank you email, include that picture. And whenever you do include that picture, mention who's in the picture and the captions with you. A lot of times elected officials will put it on their own social media. Some may not. However, it's just an opportunity to, follow up and have another touch point with you and your team. And we mentioned the thank you notes and that we are putting in your bags with you. And if you have a meeting with somebody, no need to do it for absolutely everyone if you have not met with them. But if someone sits there and takes the time to talk with you, it's never a bad thing to write a few lines down and let that person know how much you appreciated their time with meeting you with you. We covered this earlier about sharing any of the relevant notes or questions that were unanswered with our advocacy team. We have the email here, and you will also get a copy of these slides, so you don't have to sit there and scribble this out. We will follow up with this, but we have an email that you can send the questions to, and then we also have another email address that you can send any of your pictures that you take throughout Lobby Day with us. As you see through this presentation, we have a lot of photos from last year's event, and we'd like this webinar to include pictures from this year's event. So please send us your pictures and have fun. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Advocacy, Lisa May, to talk over the talking points.
All right, ladies, thank you. And I think everyone here can see all of the work that Krista and Jackie have put into this event. I would trust them to plan a land war in Asia with all of the details and all the preparation and all the behind the scenes work that they have been doing. So thank you both so much. Now we're going to get into the meat of what you're going to be discussing with your legislators when you go in and have those meetings. And we're going to go through all of the talking points that you might cover in the meetings, but as was said, you may only have 2 or 3 of these that you're going to with any particular legislator, because we have tailored them to the committees that they serve on and where they can be the most help to us on their priorities. Starting with accessory dwelling units, probably our top priority for the session. So we are anticipating that every one of you will talk to every legislator about accessory dwelling units. This has been an issue that we have worked on for several years in the General Assembly. There was a state level task force that met and that made recommendations. And the bill that is before the General Assembly is essentially putting all of those task force recommendations on accessory dwelling units into law. So while we hope that the General Assembly would have acted many years ago on ADUs, we now have this task force to essentially back up what the realtor position was, which is that ADUs should be easier to construct in our localities if that property owner wants one. So this bill will allow one ADU by right on residential lots throughout the state. So you don't have to go to the planning commission, you don't have to go to BZ, to the zoning board, you don't have to do any of that. You go to the county, you pull your permit, construct it according to that permit, and you're good to go. So this is a really great way for us to add to our housing inventory immediately without the time and the impacts that, say, a brand new subdivision would have. And we also have, to back you up, that video that was mentioned, and we're also going to have our state of housing infographic that you're going to leave with those legislators. And that infographic shows that support for ADUs among Maryland voters is at the highest level it has ever been since we started polling. 81% of Maryland residents think that it should be easier to construct an ADU. That's a very important point to make with our elected officials, because they might be reluctant to think about what their constituents, do we really want those literally in our backyards? Well, the answer is yes, they do. Once informed, Maryland residents do want these as a housing option. So we want you to emphasize that with the individuals that you are meeting with. Jackie, next slide. All right. This bill does a whole lot. This is a Maryland Realtors initiative. This is one of our Realtor bills that gets into brokerages. If you are going to be meeting with a member of the Economic Matters Committee, this will be on your visit sheet. So this bill does quite a bit, actually. Since NAR's fair housing requirements are 2 hours, we are going to adjust the state requirement to also be 2 hours. That removes any confusion over which CE class you should be taking and really prevents you from inadvertently taking a 1.5 hour class when you need the 2 hour class for your Realtor membership. We are also clarifying a part of the statute for exclusively commercial practitioners. We had 2 sections of the code that were somewhat contradictory. We're going to resolve that contradiction to say that if you're exclusively a commercial practitioner, instead of taking fair housing, you're going to take coursework on ADA compliance. The third thing that it does, when we created new licensing requirements for brand new licensees, that first renewal cycle, they have to take a specific set of CE coursework. The Real Estate Commission interpreted that rule as saying there's a Brad class for new licensees, and then there's a separate Brad class for every other licensee. Well, brokerage laws are the same for everyone, whether you're a new licensee or not. Again, to prevent any confusion, to prevent someone from inadvertently taking the wrong Brad class for their license, we're going to go in and clarify that no matter where you are, Brad is Brad. And we love Brad. So there's that bill. Oh, sorry, Jackie. One more back. Thank you. The final one, and this is a little inside baseball that gets into the operations of Maryland Realtors and your local associations, is how CE instructors are certified. We had a situation where the Real Estate Commission had not been certifying new instructors for their required classes. And Maryland Realtors was actually left with a situation over the summer where we, even though we're the largest trade association in Maryland, had no certified instructors. That can't happen. So what we are going to say is the schools certify the instructors, and the state certifies the schools, and the state approves the outlines. We think that that's the proper way to do it, particularly in a time right now of a lot of agent turnover, a lot of staff turnover, let's be honest. But this way we can ensure that there are always going to be qualified instructors at the ready so that you can get your continuing education coursework completed when you need to. So there's a lot in that bill. Really, unless you're talking to ECM in the House and the Senate EEE committee, this may not be on your radar, but for those, this is going to be an important one because it comes to them first before it can go to the full General Assembly for passage. All right, now the next one, Jackie. Thank you. Fraudulent real estate practices. This includes a couple of things that I'm sure you have heard about, or unfortunately, maybe you have experienced yourselves. The first one involves the vacant land scams and seller impersonation scams that you know of, that we have put out our brochure on pointers to avoid those. So there are various bills in the General Assembly that get at that. There are also bills to address squatters. And I will tell you, we have more bills on squatters this session than we have had combined in probably the last 10 years. That's a function of our real estate market, our tight inventory, the high prices, the desperation of folks to get into housing. So we're seeing a lot of bills on that. Some get into speeding up the court process for unlawful detainer. Some of them would go and allow the property owner to sign an affidavit with the sheriff to say, this is my property. I did not authorize this person to be here. There's going to be a lot of negotiation and whittling down of these many proposals into one. But we are optimistic that the General Assembly really sees this issue as one that is occurring in their communities. Many of them have had to get involved when you contact them or when a property owner contacts them and says, I'm having this problem. What do I do? So we are optimistic. If you are meeting with our judicial committees, so Judiciary in the House and Judicial Proceedings in the Senate, this is going to be one of your main talking points. All right, next slide, Jackie. Thank you. Assignment of real estate contracts, otherwise known as quote unquote wholesaling. There's some good news on this one, and this is where probably most of you will see exactly what's happening in the House, but this is actually an opportunity for you to start your meetings on a very, very positive note with a thank you to our elected officials. We introduced this wholesaling bill in the Senate. The Senate has already passed it unanimously, which is a little crazy at this point in the session. Normally, you don't have bills that have made it through committee and the floor at this point in time, but we did with this wholesaling bill. So we are definitely going to thank the Senate for passing this bill unanimously. We are expecting that this bill will be voted out of the House committee today. We think it should be on the House floor by next week. So really, you might be starting out every meeting with an elected official saying, thank you so much. You have already been at work for us and have passed one of our key priorities. So we're very happy about that. We will include all of the details of the bill, just in case you get asked. But essentially what this bill does is says, if there's going to be a wholesaler involved in the transaction, they need to tell the seller that they might assign that contract to a third party. And they need to tell the third party that they are assigning that contract to, that they're not the property owner. They only hold an equitable interest in the property. And they may not ultimately be able to convey it to them. So it's a disclosure. It really so far has not been controversial. So we have very, very high hopes that maybe even by Wednesday, this bill could be a done deal. Okay, another housing bill that has been introduced. This one comes from the administration, from DHCD, and it's called the Housing for Jobs Act. And what this bill would do is it would do an analysis of how many jobs you have in a county or in a region for some of our smaller jurisdictions. And then it would look at, do you have housing? How many housing units you have, and do they support the jobs that you have in that area? And if you don't have housing sufficient to support those jobs, then local governments are going to be limited in the reasons why they could deny a new housing project. Certainly there could be some reasons, but they're not going to be able to just give in to the NIMBY shouting that we don't want housing, because housing and jobs go hand in hand. Housing is the infrastructure that fuels our economy and our workforce, and this bill is an acknowledgement of that. So those are really good points to raise. Again, that infographic, the entire back side, second page of that infographic gets into why we need housing for our workforce, why unfortunately, a lot of our future workforce and our today's younger workforce are looking to leave our state because we don't have housing for them. That is going to have a very long-term economic impact on our state. It's also why we're facing some of the budget issues that we are right now. So we want to drive those points home that we have to keep investing in housing. We can't just stop with the one housing bill that passed last session. We have to keep going. So there is the Housing for Jobs Act. This will probably appear on a good number of your talking points. Okay. Normally, now we're going to talk about two issues here. And in the past couple of lobby days, we have been able to go in and just talk very favorably about bills. These are our bills. We love them. We would love your support. This year, because of our budget situation and because of some other issues, we are going to have you very delicately go in and oppose some bills. And we say delicately, again, because as you know, members of the General Assembly, some of whom you might be meeting with, are sponsors or co-sponsors of these bills or have supported them in the past. So it is a delicate situation. We are going to ask for, some restraint and some tact, which is hard on our part too. We understand, we get it. But these two bills really would be harmful to the real estate industry, and it's important that we make that point. So the first one here, just cause and good cause. This is a bill that impacts landlords and property owners, property managers. And essentially what it is, if you were to try to end a holdover tenancy, or once the lease term expires, if you were to not offer a lease renewal to a tenant, you could only do that for specified reasons that are in this bill. We think that one could harm landlords. It could harm their ability to keep the good tenants because they are forced to keep the bad tenants. And it could also, because most of our folks operate single family or townhouse or condo rentals, we think that landlords, particularly with all of the new bills, all of the new requirements, all of the new restrictions that have been put on landlords in recent years, that they could just leave. They could leave the market, sell off those properties, go somewhere else. And while that might be okay for those property owners, we really have to make the point that that means there are fewer housing options for tenants. While this is often described as a tenant protection, it could end up harming tenants as well. So, particularly for the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee, they are so far the stopgap keeping this bill from passing. The House did pass this bill last year as a local option, came over to the Senate, died there. We really have to make that case to the Judicial Proceedings Committee if we want to stop this bill from passing. If it turns out that this is the only bill you talk about with judicial proceedings, I'm fine with that. It really is that important that they understand everything that goes into this and why we oppose it. And then finally, Jackie, next slide if you can. Thank you. The issue of the session is our state budget. And we have a feeling that all of you will be asked about the state budget, even if it's not on your talking points. So I'm going to give you the short answer first, and then we'll get into a little bit of the caveats and everything on that. As of right now, Maryland Realtors has not finalized a position on the budget. We have had meetings with the administration over it. Our legislative committee, and shout out to our legislative committee, he's been working so hard every week since the session started. Our legislative committee has had several discussions on this so far. We will have a position developed probably within the next week or so. And here's what it's going to come down to. We do have concerns over what is in the administration's announced budget. There is a proposal to eliminate itemization on state tax returns in exchange for doubling the standard deduction, which is mirrored off of what the federal government did a couple of years ago. There is a possibility for those of you who have pass-through entities and claim your business revenue on your personal tax returns. There is an increase in the income tax rate for very high-end earners. So we should, so there are concerns that that could hit some of you. And then there is also a 4-year surcharge on capital gains income, which could be applied to houses with a value of $1.5 million and above. So we have concerns about that and what that does to our industry and to all of you. However, we've had several worse proposals for revenue last year and this year, including that sales tax on services, including a statewide property tax increase, including a transfer tax increase for properties valued at $500,000 or up. So the budget proposal could be worse. We could have some of those revenue raisers instead of the ones that are in there. And that's the balance that we're trying to find. We don't like the budget necessarily. I don't know that anybody likes the budget, really, but we have to balance that with substituting something else in that is even more harmful for the industry. So those are conversations that are going to be taking place probably right up to sine die in April. So I think the overall message on the budget is, yeah, the budget proposal is not the best, but we really hate these bills like the transfer tax, the property tax, a sales tax on services, because those get directly to the housing affordability issues that we're highlighting on our infographic and elsewhere. So that's a very complicated issue. It's kind of a massaging, a message massage thing. But if you do get feedback, particularly on this budget piece, please share it with us. That can only help us as we engage on the budget in a way that we really have not had to prior to this session. So I believe, Jackie, is that all of our issues that we have? Do we have any more?
It may be. I know some of the situations have changed. Do we have anything to talk about for lowering housing costs?
Yes, thank you. I knew there
Great.
was
Okay.
one more.
Okay.
I knew. I was just going off of, okay, perfect. There is one more. So yes, the counterpoint, the counterpoint to the state budget, again, is that you're going to have folks that are very concerned, particularly about rent increases. And unfortunately, the way they want to deal with things like rent increases or things of that nature is to say, well, we need rent control, or we need some of these things that are really misguided. There are ways that the General Assembly can lower housing costs without going to those proposals that really, shoot us in the foot. We could look at expanding the renters and homeowners property tax credits. The limits on those have not been raised in many years. So as we have inflation, as housing values go up, as we have adopted the $15 minimum wage, fewer and fewer people qualify for these. Now, we don't have legislation on that this year because of our budget situation, because bills to do this have a fiscal impact, a negative fiscal impact on the state, and they are looking to keep as many of those negative fiscal impact bills off the table because we're just trying to make our budget balance. But if someone talks about, well, we should do this, we should do that, this is where you can value add to that conversation and say, well, no, wait, you already have tools at your disposal to help housing affordability if you wanted to. And, the Maryland Mortgage Program, some of those things come into it as well. Keeping that Maryland Mortgage Program funded so that they can help first-time buyers afford that first home. That's another great way that the state can use its existing tools to help with housing affordability. All right, Jackie, the next one. Yes, real estate disclosure portal. We are discussing this idea with elected officials. We had hoped that we would have a bill on this because all of you know each and every year the General Assembly passes a law to add a new disclosure or a buyer notice, and then we have to go in and change all of our contracts. And I know Taylor Kitzmiller's out there listening somewhere. So our forms committee gets busy. Our contracts change. You all have to know them. And the buyers end up going all of these different places to find all of this different information that may or may not apply to the property that they are buying. So we had this idea. The state has great GIS mapping capability. The Department of Natural Resources already has a website that has mapped some of the things that are in our real estate contracts. So we began conversations with them to say, DNR, can we use your existing system? Let's get a map filter for all of the disclosure, all the state level disclosures. Let me make that clarification. All of the state level disclosures and notices that are in the contract. And let's make this a one-stop shop. Buyer, you can go here, you can put in through one address, you put in the address of the property that you want to buy, and the things that are relevant to that property show up. So if they're in a dewatering zone, it's there. If they're not, they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to go around to 4 or 5 different places looking for this information. DNR was on board. We had a very positive conversation on them, but they were not quite ready to move forward with a bill this session and with an October effective date, because they said, it's a timing issue. If we move forward this session, we're going to have to get some outside help for programming. And then that leads us to have a fiscal note on a bill, which means it probably wouldn't move forward. So talk to your elected officials. We are going to need legislation to implement this, but just, if you're killing for time, or if they happen to see it on that folder, what's this real estate disclosure portal all about? That way you can talk to them about it, but we don't have legislation pending on this year. We just want you to be prepared in case you get one of those out of left field questions from someone. All right, next slide. Oh, wonderful. Those are our issues. But of course, happy to answer any questions that you guys have about what we have, either in our issues that we're talking about and the legislation that we're promoting, or about any of the other process that we have here today. This is your chance before lobby day, because as was mentioned, that morning briefing, we have the day of. It's going to be quick. It's going to be just a really general refresher of everything that you learned here today, because we have to get you out of Calvert House, through security, and to those appointments in not a whole lot of time. So please, please ask away. Put your questions in the Q&A and we'll stay until they are answered. So I'll hand it back over to Krista and Jackie if they have anything else before we wrap up.
Just another reminder, please share your photos from the event. Please send it to pictures@mdrealtor.org. If you can include names, all the better, because then if we put them in like our magazine or anything else like that, then we can note who was there and who's in those photos. And we'll put them on our Flickr page. So if you scan this QR code currently on your screen, you can see the photos from past events, including conference and lobby day last year and the year before that. So please go ahead and scan that if you would like. I'm going to go ahead and move forward though. I'm sorry if I'm too fast for some of you. It will be in the slides later, so you can come back to it. And also just a thank you. Your effort is helping us create real change for housing in Maryland. So thank you so much for taking the time. These issues are hugely important to Maryland and to future homeowners, present homeowners, and just thank you. We know it's not always easy to make it out to Annapolis on a Wednesday morning, and we know this year it might be a little bit harder. But just a final thank you for your time this morning and next week. And if you have any questions in the coming days, go ahead and send them to me and I will get back to you as best and as soon as I can. But any Q&As in the chat we'll deal with right now.
Yep. And yes, we will absolutely send this recording out. You can watch it again before Wednesday arrives if you need that refresher. So Jackie and Krista will be on that and sending you this and a lot of other information on lobby day. All right, let's see here. I'm seeing a question on ag properties. Jake, I will follow up with you on that after this webinar is done. I'm just writing down that bill number for it. My reference. All right, we can still hang if anybody is typing away. We can be here and just hang out for a little bit, just in case you guys do have questions that we can help you answer right now. Otherwise, like Jackie said, please reach out to any or all of us between now and Wednesday morning, and we will do everything that we can to be of assistance to you. Okay, I do see a question about the bill code for just cause and good cause. We will have those on your very detailed talking points, but let me just throw this out here right now. It is House Bill 709 and Senate Bill 651. So those will be on your talking points that you receive the day of, and we will give you as up to date a status on where those bills are, the committees that they are assigned to, when a hearing might take place. I believe we have that for most of our bills. We're waiting for just a couple more to come in. At some point, we may have to pull the trigger and go ahead and make those copies, particularly with a possible snow day on Tuesday. But if there are any updated statuses that happen between when we print and when you go out to those offices, we'll announce those the morning of lobby day. And we've had that happen. We've had a bill that we knew was coming. Of course, Tuesday night, the bill number's announced or the hearing is scheduled. So we'll give you the most up-to-date information that we have. All right. A question about septic bills. Some of those, there are quite a few bills on septic this year. We are working with, of course, partners at the Chamber of Commerce, with some Farm Bureau, some of those groups. None of them are going to be on your visit list or part of your talking points. But this is probably a good time to mention that on our Maryland Realtors website, if you go into the advocacy page, we have a legislative status report. And there you can see all of the bills that we are tracking this session, the most recent status for them, and then also the positions that we have taken on those. At last count, although I will say that the House dropped 96 pages worth of bills this morning, which we'll be going through. We had about 170 bills. Oh, this is why Jackie's wonderful. It's up on your screen right now. This is our legislative status report. It is populated live. So the second that we update the information on the position that Maryland Realtors has taken on this bill, it goes right to our website. So you can check in on any of the bills that we have reviewed and taken a position on at any point in time right on our website. And we keep that up all throughout the session. So if you need to, 2 or 3 weeks after lobby day, hey, I wonder what happened to that bill that we talked about with Delegate so-and-so, you can come on here and check that. Wonderful questions. Thank you. All right. I'm not seeing any additional questions. All right. Well, guys, we're maybe 4 hours over our hour, or 4 minutes over our hour, not 4 hours. I'm still thinking about those 96 pages of bills that came out this morning. Okay. We're 4 minutes over our hour. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, reach out if there's anything that we can do to assist you before lobby day. But thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe in this weekend's weather and next week's weather. And we'll be in touch very soon. Thank you all.